Welcome to the Modern Yogi Podcast. An exploration of ancient wisdom.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome. We are on episode number
63.
And we're tackling chapter 8. And we're going to be starting with text number 23. My name is Shama Sangeeta.
And my name is Priyadarshini.
And I am Shamali, and thank you so much for tuning back. We're so happy to be here with you guys and with each other.
Yeah. And so a quick recap on the last episode.
I gotcha.
Priya.
So basically, Krishna's like, hey, welcome to my crib. This is what it is. And he was like describing what his abode looks like.
Like the scene where Timon and Pumbaa pull back the leaf and show Simba, my home.
Oh, I don't remember that, but I kind of remember.
The Lion King.
That's very sweet.
Yeah,
very
yeah,
sweet.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so Krishna is talking about that. Sorry. Krishna is talking about his home. And then we also get to hear about Krishna, what he looks like, right? What are some of the things that we recognize Krishna by?
Peacock feather.
Yeah. Does he wear like many of them everywhere?
Just one?
He has one in his hair, which is curly black locks. He's the color of a monsoon rain cloud.
Yeah. And his eyes are beautiful, like lotus petals. And like there's this description of Krishna because we said in order to love someone, we have to know them.
Yeah.
Right?
And basically, side note, in their description of him, he's the most attractive in all of the world. And that might sound like a lofty concept, but think of the person you have found the most attractive in your life in this material world. And think of that times 1,000,000 bajillion, unimaginable.
It's now, like on the scale of attractiveness, it's like times 1,000. Whoever is your biggest crush, so it's like times 1,000.
Christian Haydenson from Star Wars times 1,000,000.
I don't know who that is.
Anakin.
Sure.
Anakin.
You see, and here's the reason why no person can be as attractive as Krishna, because I don't think what you just said was attractive.
We're going to talk off air and I'm going to convince you. Anyway, that's
listen. And I think like what I was going to say with this is like, you have a vision of what you think is attractive, but then somebody else has a different vision of what they think is attractive. And for the most part, we maybe be able to agree on someone who's like an actor or a model or someone who is actress or someone who might be really attractive. And we can be like, yeah, that person's very attractive, right? But then they open their mouth or they do something and then they're not attractive anymore. But Krishna, everything about him is attractive. Like the way he farts, the way he talks.
The way he farts. Does Krishna fart?
You did not expect
I'm into that.
You did not expect that.
Wow. Okay,
I was just checking. I was checking to see if you were paying attention.
I was zoned out, but now I'm zoned back in. Thank you for that, Priya.
You're welcome.
So it doesn't
everything
describe
about Krishna
farts,
is attractive.
And what's interesting is that since looks are so subjective, and we all might find different people attractive, Krishna encompasses all of that because everyone comes from Krishna. So he is literally the topmost all attractive person.
Everything you find attractive about that person that you mentioned that I don't know his name. And everything.
How can you even say he's not attractive? Anyway, we'll find off
Anakin
air.
Skywalker?
Are you kidding me? Yes.
I know what that person
never watched
looks
those.
like, but...
No.
Anyways,
Anyway,
the one with the black mask and says, I am your father.
No, but that's later on when he became the tragic hero. We'll talk about it later, which actually has many overlaps. The Jedi philosophy has many overlaps with Bhakti philosophy.
We can do a whole other podcast about that.
Thank you.
For now,
save it for your next podcast.
I don't want to talk about podcast that I'm not a part of. Get out of here.
But for now, we're talking about the fact that
Krishna.
if you can picture the most attractive person to you, and then Shamali pictures the most attractive person to her, and then Shama Sangeeta, and everyone
George
pictures
Clooney.
and then put all of that
him.
attractiveness combined, and Krishna is that, but a million times more.
Exactly.
Okay.
Love that.
Yeah. There's a little anecdote of a flight attendant. A stewardess, she walked past the aisle and I think Prabhupada was with someone. I might be getting the details wrong. They might have not been at an airport, but they were somewhere and he was with a young brahmachari and Prabhupada asks him, so the woman walks by, very attractive, and he turns around to the brahmachari, to the young student boy, and he says,
The monk.
And Prabhupada says, very attractive, isn't she? And he looks to the young boy and the young boy stares because, you don't want to disagree with Prabhupada, but you're a monk. So he did the smart thing and stayed quiet. And Prabhupada just said, imagine then how attractive Krishna must be.
Oh, wow.
Prabhupada connecting everything to Krishna. Look at him.
I would have failed that trick so fast.
What would you have said?
I would be like, yeah, Prabhupada.
Dope.
That's dope, Prabhupada. You think she's single, Prabhupada?
Oh my God. Oh, no,
That's
so
hilarious.
Funny. She's
Like, Prabhupada, can you make her a devotee and then introduce her to me?
Prabhupada, I think
Can you
you
go
need
talk to her for me,
initiate her and they sit us up.
Oh my God.
Anyways, anything else on the recap?
Oh yeah. Let me. Yes. So then we talked about Goloka Vrindavan.
Yes.
And Goloka Vrindavan, so it's the place
heaven.
It's better than heaven, but yeah, totally heaven.
It's the place where Krishna lives.
It's the place where Krishna lives, and how to get there, you have to be very pure of heart, understand what devotional service is, be practicing bhakti yoga, right?
Yeah.
And we also learned that Krishna, well, is in everyone, and he is everywhere. We are part of him. He's everywhere, but like he's managing the whole cosmic manifestation, and he works from home.
Right, while still being the supreme enjoyer up in Vrindavan, just playing his flute and having loving exchanges with his fellow devotees.
He's still managing everything else.
Yeah.
And that's an incredible thing that none of us could do.
Nope. He's quite the CEO.
Yeah. And so we're just learning about Krishna in this chapter. And that's kind of the rough idea for the last episode. So if you want to learn more, you can check it out.
All right.
The last episode was actually one that I super enjoyed. So you definitely got to check it out. Shama's like bubbling to move on.
All right. The invocation, please, ladies.
Okay.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Translation: I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto them.
Beautiful.
All right. Chapter 8, text number 23.
Priya Darshini, take it away.
All right. O best of the Bharatas.
So Krishna talking to Arjuna.
Yes. O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which, passing away from this world, the yogi does or does not come back.
Ooh, this is very interesting.
Very
'cause
cool.
We just talked about heaven, right? We talked about how once you live a life of devotional service and you dedicate your entire life to Krishna, you go to the place where Krishna lives and you don't come back, right? And so I think Krishna's talking about death right now. And he's saying to Arjuna, I'm going to explain to you right now what happens at what times do you when you pass from this world or when you die, you do or do not come back. So,
Yeah, and he's going to spend the next couple of texts actually explaining that. And then Prabhupada does something really great. He kind of breaks it down and says, you're about to hear all this stuff, but you should know that if you're a pure devotee of Krishna, or anyone who's a pure devotee of Krishna does not actually care when they leave their body or by what method.
I feel like the teacher in
that's
us
good.
would be like, if we're explaining this section to the students, we'd be like, but you don't have to know this for the test, but you just understand it anyway.
oh, that's such a good way
I
to
like that.
understand that. That's great.
Yeah, so he's basically saying that pure devotee leaves everything in Krishna's hands and so easily and happily returns back to Godhead. Because you trust in Krishna, he'll take you there anyways. But here's the information anyways for those that maybe are on a different path.
Right, because those who are not unalloyed devotees. And what would an alloyed devotee mean? Like alloyed, like they're
It's pure.
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 Yep.
So people who are not pure surrendered devotees, they depend on so many different methods of spiritual realization. We've talked about them: karma yoga, jnana yoga, hatha yoga, and they must leave their body at a suitable time in order to be sure of whether or not they're going to return to the rat race of life and death.
Life and death. Life and death.
Like someone spends all their life doing karma yoga, right? Like, which is like working in
Action in Krishna consciousness, right?
But with
Not Krishna
quite
conscious.
Krishna
Just
conscious, just
action.
actions,
Just
right?
like
someone
through
who
good karma.
good karma, exactly, good karma, right? Like someone who's constantly doing good karma, and then or someone who goes to jnana yoga, which is like through understanding and knowledge and all of that. So you spend all your life with all of that dedication, and you still have to worry about how you die.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That does not seem worth it. I much rather do devotional service and just be like, you take me when you want, Krishna.
the perfect loophole, right?
And under the theme of what we talked about last episode, it's so hopeful because no anxiety. Krishna has literally got you. He's got everything. For someone who's doing no work and is just the supreme enjoyer, he's just so effortlessly taking care of you.
I love that.
You know?
I love it so much.
All right. Anything else on this purport?
Just one line. It says the suitable times at which one passes away and does not come back are basically explained in the next verse by Lord Krishna.
All right.
And it also said if you don't plan it, then the success of where you go depends on accident. Like it's just
Oh my God.
like by accident, like your death will be just kind of what it is.
That part, I had a question on it. I don't know if I even know the answer, but okay, a yogi who spends his whole life in preparation, now one who does not do Krishna consciousness, he might spend his whole life in preparation and someone else be just as qualified, but literally what? By accident, the one might leave this world and the other might come back?
Not necessarily accident. There's some mercy.
Right, because I was about to say nothing's an accident, right? We learned in what verse that not a blade of grass moves without Krishna. But I guess that's the thing. When you are a devotee of Krishna, he gets personally involved in your life.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah, otherwise you have the free will and therefore those actions kind of have karmic reactions, and then that all takes care of each other, takes care of itself in a way where you might have a death that is karmically good or positive for you.
Right.
So should we get into the explanation?
That's it?
Yeah. So should we get to the next verse?
Oh yeah, you said the explanation and I was like, we did it. I wasn't sure where we were going.
You know what
Anything
it
else
made
you
me
want to
think? Because of what I just asked about. Does it really happen by accident? Like a lot of CEOs say, the harder I work, the more lucky I get, Like, okay, the more work they do, maybe the more quote unquote by accident, they'll have a good birth. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I could see that.
All right. Text 24, Shama Sangita.
All right. Those who know the supreme Brahman attain that supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery god, in the light, at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north.
I feel like I'm holding an old antique lamp and we're in a tunnel and you're saying, when you go in the fortnight, do it this way and that way. Be sure to remember my final instruction.
I know, this is very interesting.
It's a little complex.
Yeah, it's a little bit complex. So Krishna is saying that, let's break this down, right?
Yeah.
Those who know the supreme Brahman, which is Krishna.
Yeah.
Yes. So those who know me attain me by dying during the influence of the fiery god.
So when, like the sun god, or is the fiery god different?
I think it's the sun.
Yeah, right?
The influence of the sun.
And I guess the supreme
because
Brahman,
in the light.
because Brahman could also be the impersonal, all-pervasive aspect of the supreme. But I guess if they say supreme Brahman, is that the personal form of Krishna? Because I think this text is still describing those who are not Krishna conscious.
Well, let's look at the Sanskrit and see if it helps us.
I just looked back there. I closed it. Yeah, Brahman is the individual soul. It can also be number 2, the impersonal, all-pervasive aspect of the supreme.
In this case, if you look at text 24, the Sanskrit word Brahma, it's referring to the absolute, so Krishna.
So that is Krishna.
Right.
So in this case, Krishna is referring to himself.
Okay, those who know me, but maybe they're not surrendered devotees.
But here's the thing, whenever you put the word supreme in front of anything, it means Krishna.
Right.
Isn't there a brand called Supreme?
Yeah.
There is.
There is.
So is that
So that's
Krishna?
Krishna.
Yeah, that's Krishna's brand.
Oh, okay, got it.
So, you
so
know,
good to know.
Supreme, if you want to sponsor us, we're right here, baby.
We're just going to change the name to Supreme Brahman. It's like Brahman.
Just add a little Brahman
Just a
to
little
it.
small Brahman.
Yeah.
I like it.
Nice.
Okay, so during the influence of the fiery god in the night. So that
In
means
the light.
sun, right?
In the light, yes.
In the light.
Yeah.
And at an auspicious moment of the day. Okay, I want to talk about this. So every single day, like today, for instance, the day that we're filming this is the birthday of Lord Ganesh, right?
Oh.
It is Ganesh Chaturdashi. Chaturdashi.
Chaturdashi?
It's his birthday, okay? Basically, that's what that word means, okay? And so basically there is like different times of auspiciousness that when you can pray and whatnot. Oh my God, I can't spit it out.
You got this, you got this.
But every single day that goes on, there are both auspicious and inauspicious moments, right? And so that is calculated. I don't know how.
But there's like a general auspicious time of every day.
Yes, there is.
You want to tell us about that?
I don't know what.
Okay,
that is.
Absolutely not.
I'll pass it back.
Sorry. It's in the morning. It's the Brahma Muhurta.
Yes.
It's I don't know if it's a precise time,
It's
but
like
it's
what, in the 4 a.m.? It's
It's
when
like
the
4
sun
to
is
6
coming
a.m.
up.
yeah,
every day.
roughly. You can look more into that. But yes, that's roughly the like a very auspicious time
To do your like morning sadhana, because it's kind of like the world's asleep. You're rising before everyone, and when your mind is the most still and peaceful and you're able to chant. That's been a goal for my whole life to do.
Hey, I hear you, sister.
You got this. I believe in you. One day.
One day.
Yeah, and then
So auspicious moments, and then okay, this one I'm gonna need some help with. Okay,
I gotcha.
During the fortnight of the waxing moon.
I gotcha.
Go ahead, Priya.
Okay, so I ChatGPT did.
Okay.
The term fortnight refers to a period of 2 weeks. The waxing moon is the period when the moon is getting brighter and larger. So the fortnight of the waxing moon would be any 2-week period during which the moon in which the moon is in its waxing phase, transitioning from a new moon to the full moon. So when it's becoming its largest.
So the 2 weeks before the moon gets really, really crazy, really, really big.
Yeah, those weeks as it's getting big, that's a good time.
Okay.
So again, I want to emphasize, even though at the top of the text it says, those who know the Supreme Brahman, those who know Krishna, go through all of this. We're not talking about his surrendered devotees, because again, as we said in the previous text, his surrendered devotees don't care about all of these details of when we leave.
I'm happy about that, because this is a lot to remember.
I can barely even
I'd rather like not worry about it. And
honestly, like also not even just remember, but imagine like you're dying and be like, no, I have to wait 1 more hour.
I gotta hold on because the moon gets a little bit bigger tomorrow, and I just need to hold on one more day.
Can I just say a funny little, some people really do take it to an extreme. Like I was talking to an astrologer once who was a devotee, and he knows the precise times for every single little thing that, you know, Shama, when you were saying, oh God, I would not, thank God I don't have to remember all this for our time of death. He was actually sharing a story, or maybe oversharing a story. It was so funny. Oversharing, because he was describing the moment that he conceived his first child. And being an astrologer.
Nice.
What?
No, being an astrologer, he knew like, okay, I'm making up 12:05 p.m. It's good, but at 12:04 it was not good. What? So he was like, literally, we're sitting there like my jaw trying not to drop, and I'm like, oh my God.
That's
He's
an
like,
overshare.
like,
That's so much information.
Before the act, he's like, no, wait, we have to wait till this Lakshana goes into this and this and this planet. Wait. So
I'm kind of into that though.
So it was like no spontaneous bow chugga wow. It was like waiting till it turned a certain time.
Because it's an auspicious moment.
It's auspicious. But yeah. No, I mean, to each his own. So Shama, like, good for you if you want to do that.
Honestly, you know how much I love astrology, right? So like, what this story is fascinating.
But you wouldn't then want to memorize all the fortnight and blah blah blah.
No,
for
I don't want to memorize that.
But for having a baby, you would.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was supposed to go bow chicka wow wow, but I went because that's what came out of my mouth.
Time to have a baby.
No, but that's such a fascinating thing, right? Because he was waiting for an auspicious moment.
But also like that's kind of like a very proper thing to do.
No, and he got even more in detail. Literally, if he were here to tell the story, you'd be like, oh my God, because he already had a name chosen, but depending on when you conceive, like certain syllables of the name match that. So he already
when you're conceived or when you're born. Because I've heard it's when you're born.
It was just so many details, and I was thinking, oh my God.
We should invite him on the podcast. I think that's a good idea.
No, seriously, it's when you're born, because like basically when you're born, there's like that month has a particular like syllable that you can use for the beginning of the name, and then you can choose any name as long as it starts with that, and it's like more auspicious.
So I think that determined what month they were going to try to conceive, because they calculated when the child was born, so they wanted a name like that. Wow. And then from there down to the minute, because they knew it'd be auspicious for this and that reason. And
it sounds like she was in on it, so good for them.
Yeah, she was in. I mean, or maybe
what do you mean she was in on it?
Like she was like, yeah, I want my kid to be named Priyadarshini, so then so the kid's gonna be born.
Okay, and then they work backwards from there.
I have a feeling when it was down to the specific moment, she's kind of like, okay, honey, whatever, I'll go along. I don't care at this point.
No, I don't know. If they cared that much about a name and they planned this much ahead,
I'm telling you, if she loved astrology as much as I did, she would be in on it too.
Okay, okay. I want to hear how you one day do this. No, actually, that sounded really bad. I don't mean I'm a pervert. I want to hear details. I just want to mean.
I will let you know, and we're gonna work backwards from there. Okay, it's probably be an immaculate conception. Okay, let's.
Anyways,
continue.
Okay, always fun on Modern Yogi podcast.
I don't know where we were, guys.
Me either. What are we talking
so basically, Krishna is saying that
this.
those who know me, right, and are gonna attain me, they pass away during this time of the sun god and the fiery light, the auspicious
just
moment,
mode of goodness. A lot of stuff. Mode of goodness.
Moment.
Yes. So you basically said all of this sounded like too much to memorize.
Let her finish.
Yeah. The fortnight of the waxing moon, or the 6 months when the sun travels north. Did we talk about that yet?
I know, but I don't know what it means.
I don't know. 6 months.
No, actually, I'm imagining winter. It's not that I don't know what it means. It's just I don't know how to explain it.
Okay.
Esther, Abhijit, do you want to explain it?
What are the 6 months when the sun travels north? Is that winter?
I'm not sure.
I think it's summer.
Oh, thank God. If he doesn't know, I don't feel bad.
No, we were in what was that Scandinavian country?
Oh yeah.
We were in Finland.
Yes.
And the sun set at 3 p.m.
Soon in like what month are we in? September. So they were saying at the end of September.
Yeah. So that means there's no sun in the north, which means Krishna's talking about summer and spring.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh my gosh.
Nailed it.
That's really cool.
Nailed it. Okay, so Krishna is talking about all of these things, and this is a good way to die, but we don't have to worry about it as devotees.
Right.
Yes.
Boom. Okay.
So basically, the gist of this is if one leaves the body at the time designated above, either accidentally or by arrangement, it is possible for this person to attain the impersonal Brahma Yoti.
And that's a big one.
That's
Impersonal,
very interesting.
Boom shakalaka. That's interesting because when they were saying Supreme Brahman in the text,
Boom shakalaka. Sorry, it's just like kind of random, but I loved it.
Yeah, because in the text I was saying, who is the Supreme Brahman they're talking about? It could either be the impersonal or the personal.
But in
form
this
of
case,
Krishna.
it is personal. But they're saying that if
Then
you
Prabhupada specifies in the purport about
no, it's just saying that if you do pass at this time, you attain the impersonal Brahma Yoti. So you merged with the light.
So even if you know Krishna, if you're not his devotee, you're not gonna.
Well, just the way that like someone can know you but not really know you, right? Because we're not talking about like for example, like
how you know a coworker.
What's Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe, like whatever, right? Like some actor, do you actually know him or do you know of him in a sense, right? So like all the people that know of Krishna and happen to either by designation or by accident or by arrangement, whatever it might be, pass away at that particular auspicious moment, they merge with Krishna's effulgence. They go into the impersonal Brahman. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting because it's like Prabhupada saying, well, that's not the goal because we're not trying to do that anyways. Right.
Yeah. So just the last reminder for the pure devotee in Krishna consciousness, there's no fear of coming back. So when we leave our body, whether it's auspicious, inauspicious, accident, arranged, doesn't matter. We're in Krishna's hands at that point, and that goes beyond all of these things.
Mm-hmm. Phew.
I loved this talk. That was so funny.
All right. Chapter 8, text number 25.
Shamali.
Okay. The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south. What, before it was the north? Yeah, passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back. That is so interesting, the concept even, and we can break it down, but going to the moon planet, it also goes to show that this means that on the moon planet, there are higher classes of living beings, though they may not be able to be perceived by our own gross senses. Just like on this realm, we think there's so many dimensions that we're not able to perceive, so many sounds and frequencies that we can't perceive as human beings. Why not? Why can't there be some other dimension on another planet? Are we so self-centered to believe that we're the only ones inhabiting Earth?
I always think about that in the perspective of an ant.
Right.
Because to the ant, what are we?
Right.
We are maybe not even living entities. We're maybe just like trees or something greater. Some giant thing that you can't, they probably don't perceive our speed the way that we perceive our speed. They don't perceive our days. So like, why are we any different? We're just a tiny living entity and there's a greater universe out there. And to us, the ant is pretty inconsequential. We're not really concerned about their well-being, just like these moon entities are not really concerned with us. They have their own lives and their own things.
And even now there's actually a whole body of scientific study they're starting to analyze people who've had out-of-body experiences and who've technically scientifically died but come back. And this made me think because, like beings on the moon planet who we can't perceive at this rate, there's so many people who are alive now who have had experiences perceiving the other realm beyond and then come back to tell that whole experience. If you guys watched the show Surviving Death on Netflix, I've only watched the first episode, and it was all about that. People who, there's this one woman, and I'll make it short. She basically, her kayak went under a waterfall. She stayed there for like an hour, I think it was. That was the longest anyone was like scientifically dead, heart stopped. She shouldn't have come back, but yet she did. And, it goes into it in the episode and she describes everything she saw and she felt this peace and she wanted to continue. And the beings that were guiding her said, no, you have to go back. And she said, no,
oh my gosh,
no, I don't want to.
We have a friend who had a very similar experience. remember we talked to her about it. She was saying that she kind of drowned and she saw a hand, and she saw a hand like that was kind of like trying to pull her forward, but there was no one there.
Yeah.
And like in the time in which she was like unconscious, she saw beyond, like she saw something great. She saw, I mean, she can describe it better, but yeah, it's definitely some people.
But there are things at work that we cannot see with our senses.
Even my grandma, before she died, it was a very mystical experience. And at one point she had a fall, she hit her head. It was really intense. And during that fall, later on, she was talking to my mom on the phone. And at the time she had dementia. So my mom, many things my grandma started saying were not making sense. And my mom would kind of go along with it. And my grandma started describing, no, but I was on the ceiling looking at myself down and I'm no longer afraid of death. She was always afraid she would die alone. And she started telling my mom that I saw myself, I'm not afraid. And my mom, on the phone, this is my grandma in Argentina. My mom was here at the time. She's like, okay. And they kept going. But then my mom thought, wait, what? And later on, the woman who was the caregiver of my grandma at the time said, no, that happened. She really had like an out of body experience. And my mom started piecing together all the things my grandma was saying at that time. And she was saying, God gave me, in Spanish, japa means kind of like a gift of life. Like God gave me an extra time so I could really be there to like, have more time with you. My grandma didn't want to die alone. And it happened to be that my mom came to visit her right at the time when like they had 10 amazing days left. My grandma got renewed with this life she didn't have before, 10 days. And then she passed away.
Oh.
And my mom.
Did you say japa means?
Japa is kind of, it's interesting, right? Like chanting
japa. I don't have that word in Venezuela.
Me dio un japa de tiempo, like a gift of time.
I've never heard that. That's crazy.
Isn't that interesting? That it's
super fascinating because
really
japa
cool.
gives you a gift of
Right. So she felt like
time.
God gave her a gift of time, that she was no longer afraid of death. She had seen herself from above, her body down there when she had this fall and hit her head. And then like, I don't have to describe the whole thing, but basically she passed away on the bed with my mom, slept with her that night on the bed, and that they never did that. But my mom just had a feeling. My grandma that night told her, am I going to die tonight?
Wow.
And I was like, no, mama, don't say that. And she lied with her, and she got, my mom gave her water from the Ganga, put like all these spiritual auspicious paraphernalia around her. And then she passed away holding my mom's hand. And when my mom woke up, she thought, oh, I no longer hear the strained breathing. Maybe she's better. That's a whole other side of death for the people that stay behind is really difficult. And she was like, mama, and then started shaking her. And she describes that as like the worst feeling, So anyway.
So Krishna is talking, just going back to the verse for a second, Krishna's talking about everything that is the opposite of what we talked about in the last verse, right?
Right.
And that's the person that does not come back.
Yeah.
Those are actually, they reach the moon planet, but they come back again.
Yeah, they have to come back.
The moon planet.
So they go to the moon planet. They stay there for about 10,000 years.
By demigod calculations.
Wait. So the reaches the moon planet but comes back again is the sun.
Huh?
Say it again.
So it says the mystic who passes away from this world during blank, like a smoke night, fortnight,
Yes.
or the 6 months when the sun passes the moon but comes back again.
Oh, gotcha.
You see what I'm
But then
saying?
there's also in the purport they talk
it
about
says
the
something
moon.
else. So it's
So these
confusing.
two things are separate thoughts.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
So Prabhupada's saying like, oh, there's people in the there's living entities in the moon, and eventually they basically live there and they enjoy. It's kind of like a heavenly planet.
Right.
They're just there to enjoy, and eventually they come back to Earth so they can have another life.
Right.
They reincarnate basically.
Right, because even if you're on the moon,
Gotcha.
you're not beyond this material realm. We've even said so many elevated beings, even if you worship them, they're not beyond the material realm.
Yeah.
And then you come back. Okay.
Yeah, I know it's kind of funny because it's two separate things, but yes.
And, even talking about seeing things that aren't there, my little black cat, she meows at things that were like, oh, Gaia, she's seeing ghosts again, Like they see things.
Animals are very perceptive.
Yeah.
Children, animals.
No, it's true.
Yeah, totally. All right.
Text
Wow.
26. Priyadarshini.
Oh my God, it's my turn again.
Text series.
Wow.
We can
All
do it,
right.
guys. We can do it.
According to Vedic opinion, there are two ways of passing from this world. One in light and one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back. But when one passes in darkness, he returns.
Interesting.
Very fascinating.
It's like the battle with the good and the evil, the light and the dark.
Yeah.
This is a very short purport.
Super short.
Any Any thoughts on this purport?
One thought that those who are fruitive laborers, meaning who want to gain the results of their labor, like this is me, all for me. And then on the other hand, you have philosophical speculators from time immemorial are constantly going and coming, going. They're kind of stuck in the rat race. So they don't actually attain the ultimate salvation since they don't surrender to Krishna.
Yeah. These are karma yogis and jnana yogis, basically people who do for the sake of getting karmic good things or just, they want money, they want whatever, or people who, are into knowledge.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I think, again, we got to remember that this is just talking about people who are not devoting their lives to understanding Krishna and developing that relationship with him.
Right. Yeah. All right. Are we going to squeeze one more text in?
Maybe even two.
Oh my God. Well, two's ambitious because the second one is the last one of chapter 8.
We still have some time. Text number 27.
Yes, Shama Gita.
Although the devotees know these two paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. So that's exactly what we talked about, right? It's like, we know all this stuff. Krishna has explained all this stuff. We know these two different paths, but we don't care. We're not going to be stressed out about it because we are devotees and we're just trying to get back to Krishna. And however we die, we trust that Krishna knows what he's doing.
Yep.
Beautiful recap.
All we got to do is be firmly established in Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna.
Right. So Krishna's basically advising Arjuna, don't be disturbed by the different paths the soul can take. Kind of like the falcon, that when the falcon flies, he keeps his eyes set like kind of on the horizon, on the bigger picture. And he's not like, well, falcons can also see details, but for the sake of the metaphor, keep your eye on the goal, on the main path, and don't get so distracted.
Keep your eye on the ball.
Keep your eye on the ball. That's right. And don't get distracted by all the other side paths. Even beyond these two that they're outlined, there's so many different things that can entangle you, that can derail you. Just kind of like a horse with blinders. Keep always focused on what is the main goal.
Yeah, and he's also saying like being concerned about these two things, well, it's actually troublesome. Like it's not helpful. It's not like going to, move us forward, because if you get stuck on like, okay, I have to die in the light and I have to die, I can't die in the like
all
that's
these
actually
technicalities, you're just going to drive yourself crazy.
Literally, it's just anxiety inducing and it does not accomplish anything.
And you don't have faith in Krishna.
Yeah.
It made me think, and you're not focused on the ultimate, which is cultivating love for Krishna in your heart, elevating your consciousness. It's kind of like in this realm when you're so focused on, let's say you want to be in a relationship. It's like, did this person see me? Did this person see me? Did they see this side of me or that side of me? It's like, no, I'm putting out a certain energy and I'll attract what energy I put out there, like relying on the internal side. One more thing that I liked is that the best way to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness is to always be dovetailed in his service. And this will make one's path to the spiritual kingdom safe, certain, and direct. And I love that.
Dovetail is not a common word.
I know we have talked about it before.
We have talked about it before.
Okay. Yeah, just wanted to rephrase it. Just basically, it's like, you know what the tail of a dove looks like?
Oh, I think you gave an explanation that both Shama and I were like, what? Because dovetail kind of like in Krishna consciousness.
No, but listen, I know, but listen.
I know. So then you give the more in-depth explanation, which most people don't know, but go ahead. No, it's cool.
Okay, I was just going to say like the dove has a tail and the tail is pointy.
Sure.
So you want to point everything towards Krishna.
Ooh.
Did you make that up or is that the actual?
No, I've actually heard this before.
Even
That's
if
why they say dove.
Even if you made it up, I'm super into it.
I'm not joking. I've heard
it's
this
super
before.
Pointy, so point everything to Krishna.
Hey, it got everyone's attention. Everyone was zoned out and everyone just looked at me when I said, do you know what the tail of a dove looks like? Okay. No, but seriously, basically it's the idea that we connect everything that we do, everything that we think about. Just like Prabhupada was saying, isn't that woman so beautiful, right? On the plane.
Right.
You would think, what the heck? But he's thinking about the beauty of Krishna. He's connecting everything back to Krishna.
You'd say, is that girl single?
Prabhupada, you hook me up. Prabhupada. Anything else on text number 27?
One line, only one line.
Shama,
it says,
go ahead.
one who is firm in yoga is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness in all his activities. And I like that because yoga means union. So one who is in union is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness in all his activities.
All right, we are on the final text of chapter 8.
And if we don't get to break down the whole purport, let's finish next.
Let's do this.
Let's do this.
We have time. We're okay. Relax. Take a deep breath.
Go for it. Okay, Shamali.
Shamali, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, wow. Text 28, the last one. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas.
Pause. Oh, sorry. I shouldn't have done that.
No,
I
no.
was just going to be like, wait, that was a lot of information to capture.
That's okay. From the top. From the
let's
top.
read it
Sorry,
and then break it down.
Okay,
right?
deal.
No, from the top. Read the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. So basically, and then you can break it down further if you want, it's saying that if we just do devotional service and kind of like lift our hands up and be like, Krishna, I surrender it all, you got me, and I'm going to just try to love you the best I can, then it's not that we will miss out on all these other cool things that are that one gains from performing sacrifices, austerities, charity, blah, 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 blah. We don't miss out on that. Devotional service is enough. We'll get all of this and more because we'll get to reach Krishna's supreme eternal abode.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was perfect.
That was
Okay.
beautiful because if you dedicate your life to Krishna, you also get like all of the things that you just said, Shamli, like studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, like all that stuff is good karma. Like you're doing good stuff, right? But if you are a devotee of Krishna, you get those benefits just by performing your devotional service.
Right.
And that's kind of great because it's two birds, one stone, and
Yeah.
it's the ultimate
Right.
loophole. So that's all you got to do.
Yeah. So this purport talks about a lot of stuff because it's basically summarizing all the information from the 7th and 8th chapter,
Yes.
which is basically just talking about Krishna consciousness and devotional service, right? So if I can break it down a little bit, we can add details later. But basically, the gist of this is as follows. Number one has to study the Vedas under the guidance of the spiritual master.
Right. Not
That's-
meant for recreation of armchair speculators, but for the formation of character. That was
So
just right after studying the Vedas. I like that line.
So having a guru and learning from your guru.
Yes, imperative number one thing to know. That's number one. Okay. The next thing, after the student studies the Vedas from the master for some time. This process is done for between ages 5 and 20, and this is done under a spiritual master, right? So like studying the Vedas, right? This particular part is basically brahmachari, like that stage of being like a student, but it's not just like, oftentimes we describe this as just being a student, but what it means to be a brahmachari in ISKCON means like you go live in an ashram, you live a very simple life in which you're just learning and doing service. There's austerity, and what all of this does is you build character. It says here that once you studied for some time under the guidance of a spiritual master, that person becomes of perfect character. And if you really look, why is that the case? Because you have to be humble. You have to be patient. You have all these qualities that you have to develop in this time because it's a very simple lifestyle that you are, in which you're just doing service, right? So it's a very, very wonderful opportunity for many people if you can, right?
That's why I like that line, that it's not meant for just when they say recreation of armchair speculators, not like, oh, this is interesting philosophy, let's just speculate about it. No, like you're saying, Priya, it's true to form our character so we can really get to the final abode. Take it seriously, in other words.
Yes. So after this training of brahmacharya, then the next part is that you are allowed to live a householder life and get married. Now, in this part of being married, the ideal circumstance is that you find a like-minded individual that shares the common goal of developing further attachment to Krishna, right? And in doing this, you're also doing certain things that are part of being a householder, right? So some of these things are giving to charity, performing sacrifices. There's some of these things, right? But also giving to charity according to
the order that you're in, right? If you're a brahmacharya, sanya.
Well, this is just for householders.
Oh, okay.
So brahmacharis don't give, but it's like you're trying to find good charities and all of that, right? And so in this stage, you are doing charity, you're finding further advancement in your spiritual life, right? As you go on, then you go from brahmachari to householder to vanaprastha, which is more like that retirement age when your kids are all grown up. And that is a time for penance, like it's austerity, but in a sense of like really devoting your time for Krishna. And so these processes actually help you get closer and closer to Krishna in each stage of life, right? Because we're all have to live some versions of these lives. It's not like we're all meant to just go to the forest and just like meditate, right? And so Krishna is outlining it very carefully for us. Now it says, the beauty of Krishna consciousness, however, is that by one stroke, by engaging in devotional service, one can surpass all the rituals of the different orders of life.
That's super important.
Again, it's like, this is all the information, but you won't need it for the test necessarily.
Right.
As long as you're doing devotional service, that will get you all the way through.
Right.
But it's still important to know that these are positive things to observe in each aspect of your life, right? Like, what benefit could we not get from studying from age 5 to 20 about the Vedas, right? Like, that's a wonderful thing.
Still important.
Yeah. What else?
The next part actually is very important. It kind of breaks down, and I've said this before about the jewel box analogy, because it says, okay, chapters 7 through 12 are the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. That's huge. We're finishing on the last text of chapter 8. So 7 through 12, the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. And they break it down in the purport saying the first 6 and the last 6 chapters are like the covering that holds the middle 6 chapters, which are especially protected by the Lord. I love that Krishna is especially protecting these middle 6 chapters, because this is how you attain him.
It's his favorite.
You know, it's his favorite. And if one is fortunate enough to understand the Bhagavad Gita, especially these middle 6 chapters in association of devotees. So what we're doing here, I'm getting your association by talking with both of you. We're discussing, and I'm not alone kind of, what does this mean? I'm able to discuss it with other devotees. Then his life at once becomes glorified beyond all penances, sacrifices, charity, speculation, etc., etc. For one can achieve all the results of these activities simply by Krishna consciousness. And I loved that, because in very simple terms, I know I've said it before with this great saint in our Bhakti Yoga line, he took that breakdown of the 6 chapters and described it like a jewelry box. So I just want to reiterate very briefly. The base is the first 6 chapters that talk about the yoga of success, karma yoga. And that teaches us the art of living, how to function in this world, how to connect our daily activities to divine endeavor. The middle 6 chapters, which I just read, were the essence of it, the most protected by Krishna. That's like the jewel inside of the box. That's the yoga of love. That's bhakti yoga that teaches us the art of love, which is the heart of life, to develop love. And then the final 6 chapters are like the lid of the box that protects us against entanglement. That is yoga of wisdom, or jnana yoga. And that teaches us the art of letting go. It's the ultimate protection of life, where you learn different spiritual philosophies that help you let go of negativity, of misconceptions in the mind. And basically, with those breakdowns, the Gita teaches you how to live, how to love, and how to let go. And if you can really absorb that, you will not walk through this world, but you will float through it.
So the whole point is, what is the 3 things that you mentioned?
How to live, how to love, and how to let go.
That's so beautiful.
So the Gita is a book on life.
I love that.
And the best way to develop further faith in the Bhagavad Gita is to learn the Bhagavad Gita from a devotee, because it can only be understood by devotees.
Exactly.
No one can perfectly understand its purpose otherwise, right? So that mood of wanting to understand Krishna is very important. So I'm grateful to be doing that with you guys.
Oh, that's really sweet for you.
I'm so grateful for you guys. And you know, sometimes in the modern world, we might think to ask for help is a sign of weakness. But here it's saying it's a sign of faith. When we search for devotees and are fortunate to get their association, we actually begin to study and understand the Gita. And then they break down the last little section of this purport, breaks down the stages. So once we're able to get association of devotees and make advancement, and we're placed into devotional service, it's by this service that it dispels all of our misgivings about Krishna, the activities, the pastimes. And after our misgivings have been cleared away, one becomes fixed in one's study. And then one relishes the study of the Bhagavad Gita and attains that state of feeling always Krishna conscious. And then finally, in the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna. Those are literally Prabhupada's words. In the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna. And this highest perfectional stage of life enables the devotee to be transferred to Krishna's abode, which we talked so much about in Spiritual Sky, Goloka Vrindavan, where the devotee becomes eternally happy. So this, my friends, is the stages from Shraddha, or faith, all the way to Bhakti, or love. And it starts with that first leap of, let me get help from fellow devotees. Let me associate and talk with them.
That's the first step.
It's like if you're dating Krishna.
We're dating
First, you're
Krishna,
like-
ladies.
First, you're like, oh, let me see like who knows him and like talk
Who's this
about, like
Krishna?
who's this Krishna.
Let me see who knows him.
and then I'm like, okay, like maybe like I don't know if I like him. I have a lot of prejudice. Let me could go on a date. Oh wow, this is kind of a cool person.
He's
I no
kinda
longer
cool.
have
He's
a
the taste
prejudice.
of water. What? I love water. So cool.
And then eventually it becomes love.
I just said that was my
I
contribution.
agree. I concur, Shamli. That was a great point.
Basically, that is the summary of chapter 8.
Wow. Did we
Ladies.
just finish half of the Gita?
Oh my God! Like,
What?
look, guys, if you're looking, this is how much we got done right now.
That's-
Oh my
Okay.
God, we just
Almost.
finished 8 chapters of the Gita.
Yes.
There are 8 more chapters to go.
Amazing.
So if you
No,
have
there's one more than that.
Wait, never mind. How many chapters are there?
There's 9.
No, well, 6 times 3 is
18.
18.
Never
There's
mind.
18.
Never
The
mind.
six,
There's a
six, and
couple more
six.
I was like,
chapters.
wait, no.
I obviously did not divide
Girl math.
That.
Girl math.
That was girl math.
That was
we
girl
did not
math.
divide
We're
that in half.
basically done.
But we're basically
We're chapter
done the
8.
Gita.
Like we're way past half. We obviously don't. But anyways,
We're
Well,
almost
ladies and
done.
gentlemen, join us the next time where we will continue on the sweetest of the sweetest core, the jewel inside the jewel box, the chapters that are most protected by Krishna as we dive into chapter 9, the most confidential one.
Ooh, secret. I like it.
Exciting.
Thanks for
Exciting.
listening, everybody.
Thank you so much.
See you next time. Hello, beautiful souls. If you like what you're hearing, please follow us on Instagram at Modern Yogi Podcast.
And if you love what you're hearing, please make sure to share a link to our podcast at Modern Yogi Podcast with all your friends, families, and long-lost cousins.
And if you have any questions at all, send us a DM on Instagram at Modern Yogi Podcast and we'll be sure to get back to you.
Thank you for listening to
The Modern Yogi.